Really, really proud of our kids. Obviously disappointed in the loss, but really proud of our team's effort. Their toughness and just the fight and the battle within. You start the game and Troy gets up on us. You look up and it's 10-0. We come back and we have a 14-play drive, 12-play drive. We go all the way down the field, and boom, it's 10-8. Get a stop. We're back down in it. Again, we've got a great drive going. Come up short there with the situation. Go for it, and with Hunter out or to kick it, and I felt like, you go up 11-10 right there. You're getting the ball back the second half. We don't. Defense, they go down and score, on a little out route, and they were able to make a play. Our kids, we battle all the way back down, and we're down to the 14-yard line. And I just didn't have a lot of confidence right there in kicking a field goal. So we made a decision to go for it and had an opportunity and didn't. So you're sitting there and you're 17-8 at half. You're 17-8. And the look in our kids' eyes and just their belief and their attitude, and we came out bang. 14-play drive. Now it's 17-14. Miss an extra point. Still 17-14. We're sitting right here. And it's really back and forth a little bit. There's about a minute and 2 seconds to go in the third quarter, and it's still 17-14, and our kids are playing, tough. Third quarter was tough on us. We had several guys go down, which is part of the game. It kind of seemed like it all happened at the same time, but our kids kept battling and kept fighting. I felt like the strip sack behind, but then they get the ball on the 10-yard line. And then our defense, they come up, they take the field, and we hold them to a field goal. We're still sitting there. It's still 2014 now, right at the beginning, the very end, the beginning of the fourth quarter, and we're in it again, and then we have an interception. That really gives them the ball right there on the 14-15, and then they're able to punch it in on that next play. So, okay, so what? And we're still in it, and our kids are still battling. But at the end of the day, it's those, the turnovers and really, not executing, the kicking game in some ways in the field goal, just being able to kick field goals from the 9 and the 14 and things that the adversity we're in. But you know what? Our kids didn't blink. They played to the end. I'm really proud of them. It was a tough loss. Had a ton of opportunities. But, we've got to move forward, and we've got to get ready for a really good Southern Miss team. Questions?
What's the most frustrating part of that game? I guess it was just playing basically 2 sides of the ball versus 3 because can't kick field goals. But what's the most frustrating thing when you walk away from that game?
Probably the most frustrating thing, for me right now is just for our team is probably, without a doubt, you're at the 9, and you need to be able to execute points right there. That's the last 4 minutes of the half, and we're getting the ball back. And that's why we chose to do that. And, to not get that, but hey, that's part of it. It's part of it. And you've got to be able to adjust. And then there right before the half again, with a couple seconds left, you'd like to be able to punch that in. And that right there is, 6 points. It's a big deal. And then obviously, it's not from lack of effort. It's not from lack of preparation in a couple weeks. We've got these guys. And I told the team yesterday, I said, look, guys, Danny and Jacob have got the guts. They've got the guts to come out here and put themselves in that situation for this team. A lot of guys, they don't have the courage or the guts or the want to, and we're going to get behind them. We're going to get behind them, and we're going to support them, and they're going to get better, and it's nobody's fault. If it's on anybody, it's on the head coach, and that's me. So, part of this journey is overcoming all the different forms of adversity, whether it's injuries, whether it's weather, whether what it is. And the key is that we continue. We continue the journey. We don't change. We get up, and we continue to work and prepare every single day, and that's what our kids have done. And this team is focused on going to the next one, and that's just part of it.
And just having that next game mentality, obviously we talk about the Sun Belt, 2 losses now, it makes it a little more challenging uphill battle, but not out of the race. Just the guys, the confidence still that they can go out and then get back on track and get themselves in West Division title contention.
I think that this team, they're not down. Are they hurt? They're hurt. We're all hurt, and we're disappointed because we care. and we know we've invested everything we've got into building this program. But there's no let up. There's no quit. There's no negativity. You know, if we thought this was going to be easy, then we were thinking wrong. We're not scared of tough times. You know, we're in year 2, phase 2, and we're battling and we're fighting and we've taken major steps and we've done great things. But we know we're right there knocking on the door, and we got to keep knocking. You know, this is not for the weak. It's not for the weak. It's not for the, you know, you got to be faithful. You got to stay the course. You've got to lead. You've got to remain the same. And, you know, we're going to continue this journey. You know, we're going to continue to get up, and we're built for that. And we know that, and this team knows that, you know, look, you're in the Sun Belt. Anybody can beat anybody any given week. And it shows itself every week. Our team is close. They care. You know, we've been in a lot of tight games and a lot of opportunistic games. We just haven't made the critical plays, or we've made plays that have hurt us, turnovers or whatnot, in critical moments. So we've got to continue to fight to clean that up. And you know, this team still hadn't played its best football. And we faced adversity. But every football team faces adversity. And you can't blink. And you got to stay steady in the storm, plain and simple. And right now, this team's steady.
You mentioned a couple times in your press conference after the Coastal game and after this past game and just now, you saying we're close with a couple plays. I mean, the scoreline doesn't reflect that. Sometimes it gets away in the fourth quarter. So watch your fans believe that you guys are right there, you're close, as you said.
Because I think if you watch the game, you see it. You know, seeing's believing. And if you've paid attention and you've watched our games, whether it was Coastal or whether it was Troy, you know, I think Northwestern, you saw us move the ball up and down the field, and I think they've proven to be a pretty good football team. You go to the Troy game, who's got a good football team, who was up 16-0 on Clemson, you know, who went on the road and beat Texas State, who's done these things and beat South Alabama. We're right there, man. And whatever the situation, we've got to adjust some. You know, we've got to adjust. We've got to go for it. We've got to be more aggressive, you know, on offense. We've got to go for it more. You know, we've got to change our play calling. We've got to change how we think about that. I mean, you get inside the 40, we've got 4 downs. We've got to go generate points and score. And, you know, we've got to continue to improve in our kicking game, you know, whether it's extra points or whether it's field goals. We've got to continue to get better at it. And if you sit there and you see the effort and you see the fight and you see the toughness in this team, then we are better. And we've come miles. And we've done things in the end of the game, for instance, the turnovers in 4 straight drives. 4. You're not going to beat anybody in the Sun Belt doing that. And you're right there, and you're in the fourth quarter when all that happens. And you've overcome, you know, a ton of adversity, whether it's injuries or whether it's being down 10-0 or momentum swings. You know, we were able to withhold those. You know, that was, you know, you've got to be able to withstand 10-8 and you don't get the field goal. Okay, next. So then you come back and you go on a 14-play drive to start the second half, and your defense responds by getting, you know, stops. So to me, you know, that's what big games are about. They're back and forth, and they're back and forth. But usually the team that wins the turnover battle in this league has proven to win, because third downs, we're both 5 for 13. You know, fourth downs, we're 3 for 4. They're 1 for 2. We have more yards rushing, more yards passing, more time of possession. We had 4 turnovers, and they had, 0 turnover on downs. So that's the difference, you know, and being able to execute the kicking game. You know, I think they were 3 for 3 on field goals, and we were 0 for 1 and 0 for 1 on a PAT, and really didn't feel the confidence at that moment to attempt 2 more. So those things, you know, affect the game.
You mentioned the special teams, the kicking game. Obviously, as a head coach, your goal is to put your team in position to put points on the board. And we know we've got new faces. How do you balance still executing to help the team succeed, but also keep the confidence in those new guys to let them know you still have belief in them and that they can go out there and do their job?
I think the biggest thing is communication. When we have a team meeting, we call it out, and we talk about it. And I told the team yesterday, I said, look, Danny Hagan and Jacob Green, we got them off the couch 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. And had several guys come out. And these two guys were willing to come out there and try to help this football team. So they're stepping up for this team. And put yourself in their shoes. They're coming off the couch 2 weeks ago. So what we do is we get behind them and we support them. And every experience a quarterback gets or a running back gets or an offensive lineman or a kicker. Danny never played in a football game. That was his first time. And it's a pretty intense moment for him. So what do? You build him up and you lift him up and you help him get better. And that's what our team is. Our team is behind these guys. I mean, we're a team, and they just jumped in, and we're thankful they're here, and, that's part of it. So we'll continue to get better, and we'll continue to work, and, we've got to make some adjustments too, where we've got to be more aggressive on fourth down. That's just part of it, and we were Saturday, and we had that plan, and the one that we didn't get was the one right before the half that we had an opportunity. It would have been an unbelievable play, but we had an opportunity. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
What do you think the cause was of those turnovers? Do you think it was short defense, or just what mistakes did you guys make on offense? Those 4 drives in a row, and really 5 with the turnover on downs in a row that really spiraled.
If you look at the first one, we had pressure from the backside, and we're coming out, and we've got a two-way go where we can hand it off or we can go. And Aiden doesn't see him coming from behind, and defensive linemen, they're taught to strip sack, and they did. And they knocked the ball loose, and they fell on it. That was the first one. The second one was really a timing deal. We lost Jacob Godfrey. We lost Hunter Herring. We lost Bam. Braylon McReynolds on the first play of the game. Then we lost Hunter. Then we lost Jake. We were really already out buck for most of the week. So we moved Bibbs back to slot, and there's a lot of timing. Those are not just routes. A lot of those are speed routes, read routes, and it's a timing deal. And you got to be on the same page, and we were close. We just weren't on the exact page. So there was the second interception. Then the fumble, JP's played his tail off. JP don't want to fumble. He makes a great play. He gets about 18, 19-yard gain. They put a helmet on the ball, knocks it out. I mean, JP's as upset as anybody, and it's not on anybody. To me, it's on us. It's on me as the head coach. And look, our kids are playing their butts off. They're competing. They're not giving in. We're in a good league, and we're fighting our tails off, and I'm proud of them, and we're going to continue to do that. But that's not what, we don't. And the only way to do that is you work it in practice. When you have failure, what do? If you fumble, you work ball security. You're obsessed with ball security. And, I think we were playing some of our best football minus those takeaways. I mean, those turnovers. We were playing some of our best football of the year as a team.
Coach, the Gauntlet does this out, as you mentioned, a little bit Sun Belt Conference, Southern Miss, coming off 3 straight wins, playing some good football right now. Just talk about what you've seen on tape so far. I know it's early in the week. What have you seen from them so far that's going to be a key focus this week?
Well, we've said it from day one that the Sun Belt is is a great conference. It's the SEC of the G5. It is from top to bottom. Anybody can beat anybody. Everybody's well coached, and everybody's got really good teams. But when you look at Southern Miss, you see a lot of those guys from Marshall. Whether it's Braxton at quarterback, whether it's their star, who's number 3 was 0 last year, their corners, number 1. 3 of their 4 receivers are from Marshall from last year. So you see a good football team, and you see a well-coached team. If you look at them defensively, they're long, they're twitchy, they're disruptive. Their inside linebackers are, 6'3", 240, 6'2", 230. They're 6'4", 6'6", 6'5" across the front. They're very aggressive in the back end. They're very good. They do a great job with their eyes. They play fast. They're playing with a lot of confidence. Confidence is a powerful thing, and it's real. Belief and being faithful is powerful. And, our kids still believe. They believe, and we're not going to stop believing. their kids believe and they have confidence. And they've had some things. You go to their last game at Lafayette, ULL is up 7-0. They've got the ball. ULL throws an interception, up 7-0, 7-7. And then it's back and forth. And then ULL's on the 1 yard line going in to score, and they fumble on the 1 yard line. So it's the same thing. It's who executes critical downs and really who wins the turnover battle, because a lot of these teams, they match up. They match up. But this is a really good league. But, man, offensively, it all starts with the quarterback. He's 6'2", 230 pounds. He won a championship last year at Marshall as the starting quarterback. Now he's at Southern Miss with 3 of his receivers, with 2 to 3 really explosive backs and a big offensive line. So this is a good team, and their record shows it. And we've got to go to Hattiesburg and prepare for a big game.
Do you have an update on Jake, obviously, with the big hit, and Bam and Reynolds? Any update on those guys?
Right now, a lot of these guys are day to day. That was probably that game right there. I think we came away we were more banged up as a football team. It was very physical, and our guys were physical. But I think we were as banged up from that game as the entire season. And you're in week 8, and that's why you got to have depth. But we're going to have guys step up. Guys on this team are going to have to step up for this team, and that's football. That's college football. As the season goes, those kind of things happen, and the next guy's got to be ready.